All right, well, yesterday I installed the east side of the roof and it went pretty well. So I'm working on the soffit on this end wall here. And as you can see, I got one side done all the way almost to the bottom. And now I'm working on this other side. So the first thing I do is this fascia board is a 2x6, so it's 5.5 inches down. So what I do is I come to the top of the purlin, because that's level with the top of my fascia board, and I measure 5.5 inches down and I make a mark. I do that at the bottom and I do that at top, and then I snap a chalk line. So you can see I snap this chalk line, and then that will be where you fasten the top edge of your F channel. That's called F channel, obviously, because it looks like an F pretty much. So my soffit just slides in there, and then my side steel will go up in there. That's my J trim for my side steel. So that's what we're working on right now. I'll show you how I trim out the bottom of the overhang so birds and other animals can't get in there. When I get down there, I'll show you that. I'm gonna fasten this and then put another piece on, and then when we get down there, I'll show you how I do that. And I just use this DeWalt narrow crown stapler. You can adjust the depth of your staple. That way you don't over penetrate the aluminum and rip it. So as you can see, it works pretty good, and it's a lot faster than nailing it up there or taking the time to screw it in. And if you need to get those off, they come out pretty easy. I use 1-inch staples. Every once in a while I have one that won't go through the metal, but it works pretty good. All right, so the way I do my soffit, so on the side wall, the soffit will come to right here. And then on the end wall, the soffit will come down to here. So you'll have this little triangle right here that's unprotected because your steel will come right here. So the first thing I do is I got to step this down. So I take a 2x4, rip it to 2 inches, and put it in here. And that'll flush that up with the bottom of my fascia board. So I'm going to cut a 2-inch piece, the distance right here, and that'll flush it up with my fascia board. All right, now that I got that down, I'm going to take a piece of flat aluminum and I'm going to put it in here. So just keep working your way down. The bottom piece slides up into the top piece. Put a couple staples, screws, nails, whatever you feel like doing. And then my fascia trim will come down and overlap this right here. It'll do a couple things. It'll help hold this up, and it'll give it a nice finished look. And then I have my corner trim that overlaps the top of the steel, comes down and overlaps my fascia, so no water, that waterproofs all that. So just got to work my way down the side now. All right, so you can see here that I have my F channel that comes down, and then my soffit fits in there, and then my steel will go up in there. I stopped it right there because that's where the corner trim is going to come up. And then I took another piece of F channel and flipped it upside down and ran it down here so I could still continue with soffit down here. And then this is just a piece of white aluminum. You can get it in whatever color you need. And I made a piece to fit in that section right there. So my first piece of soffit for right here I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna bend this tab up. So you can see I just took some benders and I bent this tab up. And then I notched the end so it'll fit in here. And then I'm just gonna slide it up into there. I don't know if I can do this with one hand, but I'll try. So now you can see that just slides up in there. All right, so the last step to finishing this little piece out here, I showed you where I bend the soffit up and put it behind this piece of flat aluminum that I cut and put in here. So I'm basically waterproof now. So if any water gets up here, it runs down and it'll come out. It won't get in behind here. And even if it does, it's the soffit. The air's gonna be blowing through there and it'd be minimum anyway. So what I do is I take a piece of fascia and I notch it 3/4 of an inch so it'll fit up underneath the lip here. And this is a 5/12 pitch, so I cut a 22.5 degree angle here, and then I just slide that up in there, and then I put a couple screws in it and it gives it a nice finished look. So you can see that fits up in there, that little tab goes up in there, comes up here, and then I put a screw right here and right here, that sits up tight, and then the corner trim will come up and it'll come out to about here and cover all this. And so the only piece that's showing is this little angle right here, and that there would have been a hole there if I wouldn't have put that there. So it ends up looking pretty nice. You get a nice clean look underneath. Get a nice clean look here where all your trims meet. And it works out pretty good. All right, I got all the soffit on the house installed, so I'm pretty pumped about that, and I'm starting on the fascia now. I got the fascia on the other side wall done, and now I'm gonna do the back side of the house, this side wall, and then I'll do the two end walls. When my first piece, I mark an inch. Take it, mark 1 inch in, take the benders, this little part here will wrap around the corner, and then when I put the side piece on, it will actually come over this and wrap around the front. So that's how I do it. And then I just cut this little tab off straight, because once I bring my bottom fascia down, it's going to overlap this on the underneath side, and then I'm going to put a screw up through it into the fascia board. So you can see you just slide it up underneath this drip edge trim, and usually that's tight enough that it'll hold it there. And then that piece that I bent around wraps around the side, and then this piece will come down and actually wrap around the front, and then your corner trim hangs out, gutter goes in there, and you actually never see any of this. But one of the biggest mistakes you can make with fascia is putting too many nails or screws in it. So this is a 12-foot piece, and I will only have 3 screws in it. So I'll put one here at the end, one in the middle, and one at the far end. Once I put my next piece in, it'll go through both sheets, so we'll do that now. I use these little trim screws. They have like a little grinder head on them that kind of hones out the hole so it lets the aluminum flex and move. So they work really good. So this next piece that goes on behind the camera is where everybody comes in from the driveway. This is the back side of the house, so it really doesn't matter anyway. But I like to overlap it so from where you're mainly going to be, you can't see any of the seams. Like if you're behind me and you look back, you're going to be able to see some of the seams where these overlap. But on that side, you won't be able to see any of them if they're overlapped correctly. So I like to overlap them so from the main entrance or where people are mostly going to be, you can't see any of the seams. So how you do that is I usually overlap about 2 inches. You can see on this drip edge, I run the bottom one into the bottom fold over. There's this little tab right there, which if it's on this fascia, it's usually open. If not, you can use like a razor blade or a small screwdriver to open it. But then I'll take my snips here. I'll take my snips and I'll go about 2 inches and I'll cut at an angle like a 45 through that seam. And then come back from the other way. And cut that off. So you can see there's a little angle there. That little angle will slide into that seam and then it'll lock together right there. On this back side, how those fit together right there. And then I'll run a screw through right here so it'll go through this drip edge and both the sheets of fascia, and then one in the middle, and then again at the end when I overlap another piece. So that's pretty much all there is to this. If you do a good job with your fascia board and stuff like that, it goes pretty good. And like I said, one of the keys is to not put too many screws or nails in it, because that, if there's any imperfections in the fascia board and you start pulling those tight, you're going to get warping in your fascia. So you can see the only part that I didn't cut is this top. So I cut my angle based on my roof pitch, which was 512. I cut through this hem in the back and then just bent it under, and you get a nice straight line, and there's no break in the top. Alright, well I just finished up the ridge cap and it looks like we might have some rain here. It might miss us though, it might go north, but finally done with all the trim. It was a lot of work. Got all the soffit and fascia and edge trim, and now I got the cap on the roof. It's got the weather strips in there, so it'll keep out wind-driven rain, but it'll let the building breathe. So I got vented soffit, so the air will come up through there and it'll vent out this cap.